on ISU TV. The Cyclone Sports Live had a long franchise here at ISU TV. We're kind of reviving that this year. We're calling it Cyclone InCYders, a little CY there with the twist on the Cyclones. But this is going to be a weekly show focused mostly around the Cyclones. With, most of the sports will be covered, but football and basketball and volleyball, those will be our main focus of talking, and we'll have some guest appearances, we'll have some fun segments. You never know what you get here on Cyclone InCYders. With Aaron Bauer, I'm Dan Kassan, and Aaron, we have a big football game coming up this weekend. It's going to be an absolute awesome experience. Win or lose, this is going to be a really fun game Saturday against Texas.
Well, I don't know about you, Dan, but I'm just ready for some Iowa State football that week off last week. I know as a team, an Iowa State football team, we needed that, but as a fan, as a person just that loves the game, I was missing my Iowa State football. But third straight sellout at Jack Trice Stadium this week. I think that's a big deal. And once again, number 17 Texas coming into town, a primetime game on FX. I guess you can't get much better than that. So I hope everybody packs the Jacks and gets out there this weekend. Texas, though, Dan, they're on a roll, aren't they?
They are 3-0 for the first time, or they are 3-0 as well, and they are coming off a bye last week as well. 2 weeks ago, they dismantled UCLA 49-20 in the Rose Bowl. If you remember back last year, UCLA was the team that came into Austin and beat them, and that kind of led to the Texas demise. And right now, the Longhorns are ranked 17th in the nation. There are some challenges for the Cyclones. Obviously, the Texas Longhorns are ranked 17th. Perhaps some people think that it's more, it's an over-rank. You take a look at the stats there, and if you look at that, rushing yards, Texas kind of owns, but passing's pretty equal. I don't know how, but the turnover margin there, -5 for Iowa State and +3 for Texas. 17th for the country for Texas. I don't know. Is that high? Is that low? What do you think?
I think Texas, that's about where you want to be. I think +3 is actually a really good number for a college football team. It means you have, on average, 3 less turnovers than your opponents. But that number right there that you just saw in that previous graphic scares me. The -5 for Iowa State, and yet we're still 3-0.
It's shocking.
It really is. Iowa State, I know Paul Rhodes, he's always coached the fundamentals. But that's one thing this week I think we really need to focus on. And then you see right there, 30 penalties already this year for a total of 256 yards. While you look at Texas for the counterpart, it's only 17 penalties for 140 yards. Iowa State's really going to have to fix that this weekend if they have a chance. But I think Paul Rhodes will have the boys ready. Got a solid bye week under their wing, and it's going to be exciting Saturday night.
Texas gained 679 yards, as you see there, on the season. Is that what does Iowa State need to do to contain the run? Obviously, that's one of the Texas' main focus is running the ball. Now you have a freshman quarterback, Case McCoy. How does Iowa State contain the run?
I guess, Dan, I think Iowa State needs to blitz a little bit more. I know Burnham, he's mixing a few blitzes here. Right there, you see a nice stop by the defensive line and the linebackers coming in. But one stat I saw today, our 7th leading tackler is our first defensive lineman. I understand they need to open up the holes for the linebackers, but let them make the plays. But then you look at our 2nd leading tackler, Jaquez Washington, as a safety. And that doesn't say much about your football team when your safety is your 2nd leading tackler, rather. I just think the defensive line, they've been improving week by week. This week I look for them to break out and get a lot of pressure on whichever quarterback Texas throws at us. And then I want to see them clog up the run. I want to see them stop that Texas running game, put Texas in passing downs. 3rd and longs is where this game's going to be won, I feel.
You saw a turnover there in the highlights. And Steele Jantz, he had 3 picks in the first quarter against UConn. Obviously, if that happens against Texas in this opportunistic defense that the Longhorns have, it's going to be really tough for the Cyclones to win. But if he makes plays like that, and throw a beautiful pass to number 7 there, Reynolds, I guess the biggest question is who are we going to see? Are we going to see the Steele Jantz from quarter number 1 or quarter 1 through 3 of UNI, quarter 1 of UConn, or are we going to see the Steele Jantz that played brilliantly against Iowa and in the 4th quarter against UConn?
As Cyclone fans, of course, we hope we see that Steele Jantz of the Iowa game. But one thing we have to understand is this is only his 4th Division I collegiate game. He's just going to continue growing. And we've seen his highs. We've also seen we've seen his lows, especially that first quarter of the UConn game, the first 3 quarters of the UNI game. Don't take anything away from those three teams, even though UNI isn't D1 exactly. They're still a quality football team. Iowa's a quality football team. UConn, I know they're in the Big East last year, but they were in a BCS bowl game last year, got rocked by Oklahoma. But don't take anything away from those programs. Put a lot on Iowa State. They definitely need to hold on to the momentum they gained. Big road game, as Paul Rhodes said. The game last year that impressed him the most was the Kansas game, following the big win down in Austin, and they did it again. An emotional win over Iowa here at home. Travel all the way across the country and then get us a win against Connecticut. That says a lot about this football team, I think. I think they're going to come in, play well, and I think we're going to see the Steele Jance of the Iowa game, honestly. I think he's going to play well.
You know, I really think that if the Cyclones can win this game, obviously it is a winnable game, and only because it is at Jack Trice Stadium. The place is going to be absolutely rocking. I really think that the Cyclones need to put some pressure on the quarterback. I talked about earlier about freshman quarterback Case McCoy, younger brother of Colt. Obviously, everyone remembers the Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley. Now the two brothers are coming in. You know, the freshman quarterback, prone to make mistakes. He's never been in an environment like this. You know, he went to UCLA, but I don't know. UCLA is kind of in a transition mode right now. I don't know if their fan base is that great. This is going to be a very hostile environment at Jack Trice. And, you know, if he makes mistakes, you know, the Cyclones have definitely proven that they can take a game over with turnovers. So, you know, you need to have that upper hand, same sort of surprise victory in the trenches to keep that, you know, the Texas defensive line is very good. And, you know, if Iowa State's going to win this game, they need to win the battle up front. They got the upper hand at Iowa. It should be interesting to see if Iowa State can get that upper hand against Texas.
Texas, don't think they're not going to come into Jack Trice fired up this year. Iowa State went down to Austin, beat them, almost embarrassed them. You know, nobody saw that win coming last year for Iowa State. They went down to Austin and, you know, beat Longhorns. Don't you think Texas wants to come back up to Jack Trice and do the exact same?
You better believe it. I mean, they definitely have this game. You know, they obviously remember what happened last year, and obviously you think that they would have this in the back of their mind as motivation to come into Ames and take one from the Cyclones in their home. Okay, let's talk about the players to watch. You have a lot of key players on both sides of the ball for both teams. Who are you watching for? Who do you think is going to make the biggest impact, positive or negative, in this game?
I'm going to take a look at our offensive line. You know, we always hear it starts up front. That's where the plays have to be made. I'm especially looking at Hayworth Hicks. He's another redshirt senior along with KO. Those two need to lead that offensive line, and they need to win that battle up front, and they need to control the line of scrimmage against Texas. Texas has a very solid defensive line, and if Iowa State, you know, you hear this about every football game, if you can control the line of scrimmage, that's where the game's going to be won, and Iowa State needs to establish the running game.
You know, for me, it's Jeremy Reeves. You know, he had a lot of flack for being short. He's only 5'7" as a cornerback, and the Texas receivers are 6'1", 6'3". Case McCoy does have the advantage here to take the shots downfield against that small cornerback. Should be very interesting to see. Before we go to break, I need a prediction from you on this game.
Well, I know once a professor of mine told me, don't think with your heart, think with your head. But I'm going to think with both this time. I think Iowa State's, they're going to come out. They might struggle at times. You're going to see the young Iowa State team come out. But then I think you're going to see that Paul Rhodes coach team. The enthusiasm. They're going to get excited after plays. They're going to make the plays in the trenches that need to be made. And I like the Cyclones 31-27. I think it comes down to a late touchdown to Steele Jance, either running or passing the ball. I like Iowa State.
I don't buy it. Nope, I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I really want the Cyclones to win. I picked the Cyclones to lose against Iowa. I was wrong about that. And I have faith, but I don't have enough faith. I think Texas comes in and they establish the run very well. I think they run all over the Cyclones, to be honest. And this game will be close, only because it's at Jack Trice, but I think Texas pulls it out 41-24. I'm not wearing burnt orange for nothing on this show.
Oh, man.
I know, that's kind of a shot. Hey, coming up next, we have great volleyball coverage, including an historical evening for volleyball coach Christy Johnson-Lynch. You won't want to miss that, coming up after the break on Cyclone InCYders.
Whoops. Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy.
Works every time.
Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education. So every year, I take promising high schoolers on a college tour to show them that higher education means a brighter future.
My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Find out how you can live united for education. Give, advocate, volunteer. Go to liveunited.org.
Do you wear this?
Today is a special day. Today we gather as a nation and as an international community to recognize the selfless decision of one of the most influential women of our time. She's been recognized by religious figures and politicians around the world. To us, she's just Rachel. But to the rest of the world, she's the woman who, after having one too many drinks, chose not to drive home buzzed. Here today to honor Rachel is the family whose lives she spared.
Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders. I'm Aaron Bauer along with Dan Kassan. And Dan, now it's time for the second segment of our show. That's where we're going to focus on the Iowa State volleyball team. And big weekend for Iowa State volleyball down in Lubbock. 136th career win for Christy Johnson-Lynch. Coming from where the Iowa State program has been in years past, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. What can you say about that?
You know, Texas Tech, on this game, just focusing on this game, Texas Tech is a perennial cellar dweller in the Big 12, but it was still a convincing win. And what's interesting about that is Iowa State was also a perennial cellar dweller in the Big 12. I mean, they, one, maybe two wins in the beginning of this decade. And here comes Christy Johnson-Lynch, and I just can't believe how much of a difference that she has brought to this program. You know, she gained number 136 for her wins. That's the all-time winningest coach, supplanting Vicki Mueller. I don't know who that is, but, Christy Johnson-Lynch now has the record. She's in her sixth year, and really, like I said, from the bottom to now annual contention in the Big 12, advancing to the NCAA tournament every year since 2006, and including two Sweet 16 appearances. Obviously, she has built this program from the ground up, and it has now become this national not powerhouse, but every year you pencil in the Cyclones in the NCAA tournament. And I think what's the biggest contribution that CJL has during her tenure now is the fan interest. The Cyclones totaled about 8,000 people in all of 2004 for home attendance. 5 years later, that number jumped to 38,000 people for the total attendance for the whole game. That's averaging about 2,500 people over the home game schedule. That's huge. Student section, the side-out crew, as they like to be called, started 2 years ago. Students never even showed up. If they were just, scattered throughout the arena. Now they have their own section. And I think the biggest thing for Jamie Pollard is that season tickets were never sold. No one was able to buy season tickets for volleyball. It was almost, malarkey to think that you would buy season tickets to a volleyball series, and yet now they are selling very hot. The players deliver the tickets to the people. That's really cool. What Christy Johnson-Lynch has done to this program is just absolutely incredible, and she is well deserving of her all-time winningest
Very much so. She really she put Iowa State on the map, as you said. They're arguably, I don't want to take anything against any other sport here at Iowa State, but year in and year out, Iowa State volleyball is arguably the most consistent of any sport team we have.
Well, right
easily.
now.
Right now, especially. And you just bank on your Iowa State Cyclone volleyball team being competitive in every game. One stat I like is her very first year at the helm, she still didn't maybe have the recruits, the players she wanted to run her system with, but 16-15, the first winning season for Iowa State in nearly 8 years, I think it was. That's pretty incredible. And one thing, she's got the players now. She has her system implemented. And one of those players exactly is Hannah Wilms. Mm-hmm. She just received she's a redshirt freshman, but Big 12 Rookie of the Year. She hit Rookie of the Week, excuse me.
Yep.
She hit 340. She averaged nearly 3.5 kills versus Mizzou and Texas Tech. The Mizzou highlights you just saw there. She was amazing. I mean, it's amazing how they can rise up and just spike down. And Iowa State really played well against Missouri. 12 kills and 12 digs, and a huge win over Florida down in Gainesville. I think Florida's ranked, were they 12th that game?
Something like that. It was in the between 10 and 15, somewhere in that neighborhood. And how impressive was it for the Cyclones in the beginning of the year, non-conference schedule? They go down to Gainesville. I believe that was like the Labor Day weekend, and they beat them. And that was, I don't know if it's a signature win, but especially during the season, that was definitely a key win, and it definitely, I would say, would, promote their national status, that they could go into a pretty, Florida has a similar kind of case with Iowa State, not necessarily the rebuilding program, but the fan base that they currently have. That's a very hostile environment, if you can say that for volleyball. And Iowa State went in there and won the game, and won the match, I should say. Huge win for that, and Hannah Wilms, obviously what you said this week, 340, 3.5 kills. Mizzou and Tech, like I said, they're not the greatest teams in the Big 12, but it's still pretty impressive.
It really is, and Gainesville's going to be tough in any sport, but Iowa State has got a big game coming up this Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Kansas Jayhawks come to town. That's going to be back in Hilton. They lost to Kansas down in Lawrence last year. That was kind of one of those losses you think the Iowa State volleyball team of these days would win, but they went down to Kansas. Kansas beat them three games to 2, and Iowa State lost as said. But they'll be back at home, get another revenge at Kansas this Wednesday. You can catch that game over in Hilton Coliseum. Both teams at 11-2. Iowa State 2-0 in the Big 12. Kansas 0-1. Iowa State right now also sitting atop the Big 12 standings. It's going to be interesting to see how that shapes out. We're very, very early into the season, but
right. And that 11, and by the way, that 11-2 mark for Kansas is pretty misleading. Yes. I mean, it's as if it's almost the non-conference schedules for any volleyball team. Obviously, that 11 wins. I'm pretty sure they came after some cupcake wins. In football they play non-conference games like the Northeast West State.
When
whatever.
When you get directions in front of a school's name, I hope you win that game. Northeastern, Missouri State.
Yep.
I hope those teams aren't going to come into your place and beat you. But definitely don't take anything away from them. We haven't seen them in person, but that record, I would agree, is a little misleading for the Jayhawks coming into town.
Well, speaking of, Iowa State's also 11-2, and they played
they go to Florida.
Florida, UNI. I mean, those are some.
They got beat by UNI.
Yeah, they did get beat by UNI, but they have the same record. Mm-hmm. I think, as the rankings showed, that Iowa State's 16th. It definitely shows that they value Iowa State's non-conference, and they obviously think that the Cyclones are a better team. But this, obviously it could be a letdown, coming off that big win against Texas Tech, not necessarily for the team, but for the coach. Obviously, you don't want to have a mental breakdown. And that both of these teams have this game from last year.
They got it circled.
They had this game in the back of their minds, and I'm pretty sure that the Jayhawks are definitely going to come up to Ames and want the same treatment and want the same outcome. They're
going to play well. So before we go to our final break here, give me a quick prediction
for the Kansas game,
for the Iowa State Kansas volleyball game next Wednesday.
3-0 sweep.
3-0.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
I'll agree with you 100%. I think Iowa State's going to come out. Kansas will give them maybe a run early in the first game, but I think Iowa State controls all 3 games after that. We got to hit another break right now. Coming up now, we'll go into our third segment, back to football. I know it's football season. Got football on the mind. Huge game in the newly built Big Ten.
Right.
Nebraska heading to Camp Randall, Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. A number 8 versus number 7 matchup. We'll bring Sam Turner in, our national college football analyst, and we'll talk that after this. Just keep it here. You're watching Cyclone InCYders.
We can all be energy savers. It's easy. Turn off lights. Use energy-saving light bulbs. And turn off electronics and appliances when not in use. Make a change and we can really fly. Learn more at energy.gov/kids.
Welcome. I understand you need a little help with your mortgage. Want to avoid foreclosure. Smart move. Candy? Well, you know, you're in luck. We're experts in this sort of thing. Mortgage, rigmarole, whatnot.
Really?
Absolutely. And we guarantee results, you know, for a small fee, of course. Such are the benefits of having a professional on your side. Why don't we get a contract? Who wants a contract?
Here you go, Pete.
Thanks, Betty.
Write a toner.
Sign it. Come on, sign it. Families around the country every single day, saving homes.
We will talk it over with.
If you're facing foreclosure, make sure you're talking to the right people. Speak with HUD-approved housing counselors free of charge at 888-995-HOPE.
Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders, our final segment of the show, and with that we bring on Sam Turner. He is the co-host of the Fifth Down on Fridays on KURE. Wonderful show. If you are a college football connoisseur, you want to listen into that show. They talk all the college football you want. We're going to talk some football on our show, and we want to begin with the game of the week. College Game Day from ESPN will be there. It's going to be a huge matchup. You heard it before the break. It's Nebraska at Wisconsin. Number 8 goes into number 7. A 7 p.m. start at Camp Randall. Sam, this is obviously the game of the week, but this is, you know, the chance. I mean, this is not the hugest game, but this is obviously a chance for Nebraska to prove that they belong in the Big Ten.
Yeah, no doubt. And with this being their first year in the Big Ten, there's so many storylines coming into this game. I mean, there's so many angles that you can take it from. You know, we got Nebraska's first game. We have game day. I mean, there's so many storylines behind this enormous matchup, and you know what? I'm just ready for this game to get going.
Yeah, Aaron, what do you think? I mean, this obviously is a big matchup, and it's definitely a battle of two quarterbacks who are very mobile in Taylor Martinez and Russell Wilson.
Definitely, Russell Wilson transfer from NC State. I was a little surprised he picked Wisconsin, but he's worked out great for the Badgers up there. They got an awesome. You think of Wisconsin, you think power football. You almost actually think of the Nebraska of the past, maybe. We're just going to run it at you, come and try to stop us. I mean, they're going to play their game, and it's your job to get them away from that. I want to see how Taylor Martinez reacts.
Sure.
Camp Randall, crazy place to play, hostile environment. It's going to be very interesting to see how Nebraska plays in their very first Big Ten game.
Okay, so I'm going to throw this out to you guys. Nebraska and Wisconsin. If the winner of this game are they in the lead? Could they advance to the national championship?
I think if Wisconsin wins, I definitely like Wisconsin. Maybe I think you might have 2 or 3 undefeated teams at the end of the year, and it's going to be that whole BCS debacle again that everybody hates.
I don't know what debacle means, but
it's going to be messed up. It's going to be screwed up. Everybody wants a playoff system. Hopefully it happens. That's going to be another prime example of Wisconsin ends the table. Nebraska wins. I don't think they're going to make the Big Ten championship. I think they'll get knocked up maybe by an Iowa, an Ohio State or something, just something like that. If Wisconsin wins, I like them to run the table, definitely.
To me, it's way too soon to be able to say that either of these teams is a national title worthy because neither team has really played anybody. I mean, at this point, Nebraska and Wisconsin are both beat-down opponents. Wisconsin at this point is averaging 49-9 score in their 4 non-conference games. So that alone, they're playing New Mexico, they're playing Northern Illinois. You know, you'll really know once they get into conference play. When they're playing, you know, the Iowas, the Ohio State, Michigan State, when they're playing those teams and they're able to escape those teams every single week, that's when you'll know that they're a national title contender.
Yeah, but if you take a look at the Big Ten, you mentioned Iowa and Ohio State, but in my opinion, both of those programs are having down years. Now, I'm not sure. I'll be honest, I didn't look at the schedule, but you know, if Wisconsin plays both those teams, I don't necessarily think that playing Iowa or playing Ohio State now is as big of a deal as it was a couple years ago.
It's not. That's right. But at the same token, it's much bigger game than Northern Illinois or New Mexico. Sure. Just the step up in competition. And the other thing with that is in a conference play, everybody's gunning for each other. They don't care who it is. You could go down to Northwestern. Iowa sees that every single year. They go down to Northwestern every year. So I don't care who it is. It's a conference opponent. They're playing them tough, and you can't just slough off any opponent week to week.
I think I've been impressed with Wisconsin lately. I understand your point. It's a weak competition, but we're still talking Division I football teams.
We are.
Yeah.
They're Division I athletes. They just have that much will. They want to win too. They don't go into those games expecting to lose. I've just been impressed with Wisconsin and that Wilson kid from North Carolina State. I've been impressed how they've been able to move the ball just easily, methodically, and they put up 50 to 60 points every single game. It's just what you've come to accustomed to seeing out of Wisconsin.
Well, going back to what you said about that power running game, Barry Alvarez, their athletic director, now is a former Nebraska head coach. So that's where they're getting it from. They're taking the Nebraska formula, big in-state grown offensive linemen. You get the good running backs. And this year, with that addition of Russell Wilson, that's something that they haven't had in years past. A very efficient passer, a guy who is able to get it done through the air and with his legs. So with him, Nick Toon on the outside, that team is very, very dangerous, no doubt about it.
All right, guys. Predictions. What do you think? I know you're a big Husker fan.
I am.
I think this game is kind of interesting just because, you know, the people that don't follow sports would think it's red against red. You know, both teams think that they're red. I don't know. But anyway, prediction. Who wins this game and why?
Hold on. Before I give my prediction, I have to say this when my parents are watching. Nebraska is the real Big Red. They got the tradition. They got the history. Saying that, though, I got Wisconsin, man. I'm not sold on Nebraska. I've got a chance to watch them every game. There's holes with it. This will be the first game that they're able to play with their 3 All-American candidates. Jared Crick at defensive tackle, Levante David at linebacker, Alfonso Dennard at cornerback. With that being said, though, I haven't been sold on them being able to get it done consistently on offense. Taylor Martinez, he's matured as a quarterback. I don't think he's quite there. I'm taking Wisconsin in a close one.
All right.
I think this is kind of the worst Big Ten team for Nebraska, to play first. I like Wisconsin. I like them by 2 touchdowns. I don't think Nebraska has any shot at all. Maybe the first quarter they keep it close, they hang around in the first quarter, but I think Wisconsin wears them down, especially in the second half, and I like Wisconsin by 2 touchdowns.
I agree, only because the game is at Camp Randall. Definitely. That is an absolutely incredible scene there. The jump around in the third quarter, whatever. I know my friends go there, and they say it's a really good time, and they get loud there. And I think that Taylor Martinez will make some mistakes, and I like Wisconsin as well. Hey, that's going to do it for Cyclone InCYders. That was our first show. I hope you tune in next week, Tuesdays at 8:30, for more of the same. For Dan Kassan,
Aaron Bauer, hopefully Iowa State can get by Texas this week, and hope everybody's out at Jack Tries.
Thanks for bringing me on, guys.
Sam,
I appreciate it.
the
inaugural Cyclone InCYders.
You betcha.
No problem.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next Tuesday night.